Hello and welcome to another Office Hours. Crisp and refreshing capsule. This is a little small segment of my Office Hours live stream that I talk a little bit about set aside to do like video content for y'all. I don't know how to put it. My brain just forward right there. Set aside, give you a little segment of the longer context and longer conversation, but I'd love to have you join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you have to come on and join chat and talk a bit about all the events, the news, lore, and more of Star Citizen. With that all being said, today we're going to cover another monthly report, this time from Squadron 42. Specifically, the February 2024 Squadron 42 monthly report. Now, as always, when I read these monthly reports, it's important to know that I am not summarizing these. I am reading it verbatim, because I think it's important that if you want to understand the development of any project, you need to read the topics and the things that they release. And in this case, CIG puts a lot of work and effort into releasing these summaries of their own reports that summarizing the summary doesn't really help. So learning about everything and all this context can help you better understand how both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen is going. And on top of that, I'll give you a little bit of context about previous months about what they've talked about as well. Without any further ado, let's start with Squadron 42 monthly report from February of 2024. AI content. AI content continued to make key enhancements and refinements, with the Idris Stanton receiving focus in February. Idris Stanton is the name of the ship that you're on. It's an Idris class frigate. So, for example, dynamic conversations were fine-tuned with updates to NPC standing positions and additional randomizations to provide a more authentic feel. Updates were also made to the gym, including punch bags that now align perfectly and animate smoothly. Is that a Britishism? You call them punching bags, you call them punch bags? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. We also reworked gym hours to be more balanced, so players will see the correct number of NPCs whenever they choose to visit. Plans for busier times were created to ensure NPCs can always find a place to work out. This has been part of a lot of the larger sort of social drive that the AI content team's been doing for Star Citizen and Squadron 42. They've been really trying to flesh out that sort of social aspect of the game. Now the volume just a little bit. There we go. Additional animations were added to the bridge, including hands-on ears to demonstrate cross-ship communication and add variety throughout the ship. NPCs will now carry a more diverse range of items too. Trolley pushing and cargo handling animations were refined for added realism, while the security officer outside the bridge salutes players as they walk by. That's a nice little touch. AI features. Last month, the AI feature team progressed with 2 key fights, and continued to improve combat animations for FPS encounters. Hit reactions were also enabled for NPCs. The team also expanded the movement system to allow NPCs to use ad hoc animations to enter cover locations without passing through dynamically created paths. They also continued to support other Squadron 42 teams by investigating and fixing various bugs. AI tech. During February, AI tech focused on a variety of improvements. For NPCs using trolleys, focus was on exact positioning of trolleys in the environment. Now an NPC can correctly push a trolley to a location with an arbitrary orientation. The team also improved transit and elevator usage while pushing trolleys, so the overall flow is more robust and fluid. They've been doing this a lot. This has been like over a year of them working on AIs and trolleys. Spaceship behaviors were also iterated on to deliver better ship-to-turret versus turret combat. Fighters will now correctly target standalone turrets and perform appropriate combat behaviors. I believe this is all just copy-pasted from the Star Citizen monthly report, because this is like the underlying tech that runs both games. Numerous updates were added to the Apollo tool, such as improved feedback for errors in missions. The team also increased usability when navigating between mission callbacks, allowing for designers to jump to the appropriate logic for multiple elements of the interface. A new UI for subsumption tool is underway too. Specifically for Squadron 42, AI tech focused on support and bug fixes across the project. For example, they fixed the calculation that animations were used when NPCs enter cover to ensure they're facing their target. They also fixed an issue with ship operator seats caused by the AI thinking that only a specific animation was available when exiting. Art weapons. February saw the weapons team improving wear maps across all FPS weapons. They also redesigned iron sights alongside the screen size for dedicated tools for multi-tools. The bearing P4AR rifle was reworked. That's an iconic weapon. Okay. Are we going to get away from the Space G36? And various improvements were made to the fire extinguisher too. Hopefully the P4AR starts to look more like maybe a chunkier version of the P8, but we'll see. Gameplay story. Gameplay story began February updating a number of scenes in Chapter 16 with a newly standardized helmet setup. It felt great to see these scenes finished off and to see the helmet animating nicely as the characters put it on. Gameplay story team. The team also began receiving new facial animations and mastered audio, allowing them to complete several existing scenes. Alongside this, new motion capture enabled significant updates to the range of scenes. For example, a two-person scene in Chapter 4 was reshot to account for a new location and start poses, significantly improving the overall scene. Polish was done for Chapter 1, and a small but significant update was made to the cast in Chapter 14. Graphics and VFX programming. So this is going to be a lot of technical jargon, so if you know any of these things, please let me know in the comments below. What it's being said, I am not an engineer. I simply read the things. I have a smooth brain. So throughout February, the graphics team progressed with their longer-term tasks. For example, work is nearing completion on unification of gas cloud and planet cloud upscaling, though challenges caused by animated lights in gas clouds need to be solved. The gas cloud occlusion effect is also nearing completion, which will increase the detail level of all gas clouds, even in flat-lit scenarios. The team also resolved a long-standing issue that caused a harsh line to appear when 600 meters from the gas cloud blends with the near-fog system. Global Illumination team continued to work on a system to approximate complex materials within a ray-traced view of the world. Last month, it began looking into performance improvements before tackling some of the more complex issues like moving objects and zones. Devs from the Water Strike team closed out the issues that came up with their final review alongside several new features, including SDF interaction for accurate collisions when vehicles hit water and an improved water intersection shader. The rest of the graphics team focused on improving and upscaling tech. This involves finalizing the new mesh format that gives major performance improvements. Mesh format? I don't know what that is. Level design. The social narrative team. Okay, I have to explain this a little bit. For those of you who don't know, there's really 3 teams, and I think they've changed this since they now have strike teams for a squadron. But originally, Squadron 42 was built around 3 separate teams: the social, the FPS, and the dogfight team. And so maybe the social team still exists, or maybe it's just a different strike team now. The social narrative team continued to work on their focus chapters, the majority of which are Idris interstitials. February's work involved making sure the chapter can play out from start to finish, and that all narrative and scene content is presented and correct. For those who don't know what interstitials is, it's the stuff inside and in between story elements. So probably things like when you're walking from your bunk to a briefing room, that's an interstitial. That's the stuff in between. For example, ensuring that medical flow is working, objectives and markers are in place, emails are set up, ship chat room content is present, mission brief text is updated, and landing and takeoff sequences are correct. I had to sneeze, and I didn't, so I'm going to sneeze here in a moment. Outside of interstitials, feedback was addressed and polishing was done for Chapter 1 and the Fortune Cross and Shubin Archon locations. Fortune's Cross is a station inside of... Oh, what is it? Odin. We've actually seen a little bit of the interiors of it. It's kind of like a rundown station. Narrative. The narrative team continued to close out Squadron 42's remaining next text needs. This included providing chatter for some of the background environments, creating mobiGlass content, writing content for cinematics, and continuing to create other opportunities for environmental storytelling to enrich the locations and provide a sense of history. As mentioned in last month's report, the team continued to work with the gameplay and design teams to polish the Galactopedia experience, solidifying the approach for when and how articles unlock. The existing entries were also passed along to the localization team to start translating. We get in the Codex, the Mass Effect Codex in Squadron 42. Without spoiling anything, the team kept working closely with an artist to create some exciting content. The team also developed some lore for another set of collectibles that will require art as well. No spoilers. Narrative team. But I like spoilers. Finally, Narrative continued to review the latest levels via playthrough and video to see if scenes are triggering as intended alongside polishing the overall narrative experience. Mesh format is they have something like the GIFs used to make up the world are formatted correctly. How they put it all together, I hope that explains it. Okay, that's still a little confusing, but thank you for trying. We're almost done here. In February, the R&D team continued to work on the temporal render mode. History filtering has switched to a custom bicubic filter to avoid diffusion and resampling blur due to repeated history lookups. Care was also taken to eliminate potential ringing artifacts during strong camera movements. The temporal filtering of transmittance was improved to avoid glowing thin silhouettes around objects and foregrounds with clouds and sun behind them. Various improvements were made to preserve history details as long as it's possible. Slow movement, no significant cloud disocclusion, etc. And to quickly converge to a full resolution image in case history needs to be rejected. We never reject history here. Tech animation. Last month, tech animation focused on refining head assets and cleaning up technical debt around their implementation. This comes as a precursor to polishing head assets and refining eye alignment to the editor to ensure characters look as good as possible. Further to this, a large contingent of the department is working on assets set up for lockers. These will allow players and NPCs to change their apparel to something more appropriate for their current priorities. This is a Star Citizen mostly. This sounds simple, but in practice we have to support a wide array of assets that can be stowed and recovered from these vessels. It can take quite some time to ensure everything is set up correctly. Tech art/animation team. The team also kicked off initiatives to ensure the health of the build remains stable and triage technical debt built up over the course of the project. So, if I remember correctly, Squadron 42 and Star Citizen are part of the same build. The dev build that they have is both Squadron and Star Citizen. And Squadron runs separately from Star Citizen, but they're part of the same branch. As we get towards content complete, I imagine Squadron will branch off into its own unique game, so it won't be sharing as much of the updates from Star Citizen, but we'll see. So you'll still see a lot of Star Citizen updates in some of these Squadron 42 specific ones. The UI team worked closely with the environment and cinematics team last month, creating several pieces of movie-style UI that appear during cutscenes. They also created scenes around the game levels to help with storytelling and atmosphere. Design work was done to help improve EVA and AR markers too. VFX. Last month, as well as the usual art, cinematics, and design support, the VFX team focused on polishing and optimizing an effects-intensive in-game scenario. As part of this, the artists began looking at areas where they can create bespoke explosion texture sequences to create a more cinematic, high-fidelity experience for the player. But yeah, it also might see in Squadron 42 with like forced civvy outfits where you're wearing, a uniform or non-armor and kind of stuff like that. Who knows? pretty light month. I think the biggest standout is the Galactopedia in-game and kind of finishing up, as well as a lot of the kind of polishing for the in-between stuff, so like levels, and other kind of, you know, they're definitely in the stage where they're kind of tuning in each aspects of the game. Feels like the framework is finished. It's just more of making sure it all flows together naturally and makes sense. So pretty good. A lot of AI contents for social features. The P4 AR is being reworked. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. I want to hear your thoughts on this and any other topics in the comments below. If you want me to keep do you need to keep doing these as we get to go through Squadron, as Squadron gets closer to release? I do want to know those as well, because I do want to keep following Squadron's development and keep you updated on its loot news, lore, and more as we continue forward. Let me know in the comments below. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.